So I wanted to talk about the game possibilities, the hype for the show upcoming, and my prediction for the story. And there's going to be spoilers in this, so if you don't want spoilers for the story up to chapter 6, then you shouldn't watch. So they have skins apparently coming for maybe games like Fortnite. They seem to confirm that in today's Metazoo hour on the Discord or whatever it's called, and that's exciting to bring skins into other games, and like maybe Mothman's gonna be in it. And they have the TCG, the online TCG coming. They're hoping to release that in fall, and they may have cool things like in it like battlefields for fourth wall effects. Like I was thinking there might be a mine, and there's coal and aluminum and maybe a lantern with fire, and all those things are part of the fourth wall effects, and they would affect your cards as you play them. And maybe they'd incorporate GPS location, so you're playing in a city it would know, and that maybe your battleground, it would start raining for a part, and that would start changing card effects. And they've announced they wanted to do a blitz style game where you create your decks on the go, and not a pre-constructed deck, so it is more about what you know about the game than maybe copying someone's deck. And there's the other game that's coming out, which I think is more exciting, and they haven't announced too much about that. And I was thinking maybe it's going to be like Pokemon, and you contract a team of cryptids, and instead of items you have spells. And was thinking it could also be like WoW, where you have your spell bar and you summon your pet or your cryptid, and you have like the pet has its abilities, and maybe you take control of the beastie when you summon it. That could be pretty cool also. But they were saying, or Mike was saying, he wanted it to follow the story, he wanted it to be a little open world and have multiplayer. And I was thinking with the multiplayer, it could be cool. You have like one player playing the beastie and one player playing the caster, and that maybe is the multiplayer going to be a co-op style or a PvP style, like a caster versus caster, which could be really cool. And they were saying they were hoping they'd get the alpha out by the end of this year, so I'm really excited for that. And I was thinking they could maybe even have a Pokemon Snap type element to it, where you take the pictures of the cryptids just like Sam does. He loves taking photos of all of them, and maybe you bring it to some researcher and get points for it. But who knows? But for the show, I think the show is super exciting, and that it would be so cool to see so many aspects of the story in the show, like the end of chapter 1 and the end of chapter 6. I was just thinking, reading it, like, oh, this would be so cool to see animated, and Quimble's, that would be so cool, and Sam's powers, and so many aspects. And they've really made a cool story and an interesting world, and there's so many questions I have of what's gonna happen and such things. And they're supposed to have the pilot out by the end of this year, which they have so much stuff going on. It's so exciting, and I love how the cards seemingly have little hints of what's going to happen. At least they do to me. And I love the adventure group they've created almost. They have the Ding Bell, which to me is almost like a comic relief character, and the Loveland Frogman, which is like the whole master training the young prophecy, like Yoda and Luke, which they did reference to in the story, which I think it's all really cool. And I guess I have a lot of theories about where the story is going to go. And they said that hopefully the story is going to be out in September, the book, and that there's going to be 3 books that focus around Sam. And I was thinking they have the Cryptid Nation for book 1 and up to war, and then they go to Yokai Island for book 2, and I can't remember the third place, but I assume that's going to be book 3. And considering he said 3 books are Sam focused, that makes me think he has more of a story after Sam. But the Sam arc is going to only take up 3 sections. And so I have a big theory that I think Mothman isn't evil and Mothman's going to join up with Sam. And there's a graphic at the start of chapter 2, and it has Sam, Dingbell, and Mothman, and they all seem to be going on an adventure to me. And Sam loves beasties and he wants to befriend them, and that the last moments of M's life, he said like, "Oh, you poor thing, I know whose sigil that is," something like that, implying that Mothman was under someone's control, and he removed it, but Mothman continued to attack places, which implies that Indrid Cold put the contract back on. But I believe Sam is going to dispel evil off of Mothman and take the dark beastie, which Mothman is, off the contract. And once he's freed, Mothman will join his party. So Mothman joins Sam's party, and this creates a conflict. Adam has been training for years to destroy Mothman, and Adam is kind of like really against him, and I think they've almost shown Adam to be not that great of a character or person. They had the jackalope, and he was kind of forcing it to do stuff, and the jackalope was being terrorized, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that was one of the unforgivable curses in Harry Potter, there's a lot of Harry Potter references in this, and if that's the case, then to me that implies Adam could very well be bad, or there could be a conflict between them. And I think their 2 abstract powers or intuitions could be really cool to see playing against each other as a good, evil, or just... It almost reminds me of like My Hero Academia and All for One and One for All. And they're kind of like I guess not. And Sam and Adam, they're like the childhood rivals, and I don't know, that you don't really know Adam much anymore. Sam used to know Adam, but he's a very different person now, so it's really hard to say if Adam will be good. And I think it's likely in the war, Sam and Adam will be on opposite sides. And I'm so curious about M and all the clones of M, and I think M was actually in Point Pleasant to look after Sam and not Adam, like the Rainbow Wizard thought. And I question the relationships between the Rainbow Wizard and M, and the Rainbow Wizard wanted to know what was in M's spellbook, and you'd think, oh, if he was his student, then he'd just ask his teacher, "Oh, can we use your spellbook? It can end this war, it can fix everything." But the fact he didn't would imply they're maybe not on good terms, or that they just have a disagreeing viewpoint, and M doesn't think that the Rainbow Wizard's plan would work, possibly. And the whole Evergreens are really interesting to me as well. The Evergreens are the people that lived 1,000 years ago before the Veil was created, and they're essentially immortal beings, but they lost their magic during the creation of the Veil. And there's 13 known Evergreens in the Cryptid Nation, but there's clearly more, because M wasn't one of the known Evergreens, but he must have been an Evergreen if he was the Rainbow Wizard's teacher, considering the Rainbow Wizard is one of the Evergreens. And I think there's going to be Evergreens on both sides of the war, and I'm really excited for the war and what that will bring. And I, to a point, really hope that Mike has an end planned, and to a point it does sound he at least has an end planned for the Sam arc, because I think stories can go on too long and it's not so great. But I'd imagine it sounds like he has more of a story after the Sam arc, but it's good to end the story, I think. And like the show Avatar: The Last Airbender reminds me of that, where it was 3 seasons, and it was a good 3 seasons, and if they continued it more, it would have probably not been as good. And they did make a sequel, and I think that was fine. They made a sequel. It didn't take away from the original, but it added more story to people who really wanted it. And all these things just have me so excited for the future of Metazoo, and I really can't wait to see where it all comes and how all these things they have planned turn out. And if you know anything else of these things I talked about and more details they've announced, I'd love to hear it and let me know. And thanks for watching.